Greetings everyone, in this video I want to talk about cause and effect.
Greetings! This infinite source truth is made possible by the generous contributions and support of viewers like you. Please consider making a contribution now. Thank you.
So, does your frequency level have anything to do with cause and effect? Well, yes, it does. The higher your frequency goes, it means the better choices that you're making, and so therefore your choice, which is the cause, and the effect of that choice is not going to be the same as someone in the red zone, or the first 4 frequency levels, of which there's only 3 and 4 now since the game's been won. The bottom 2 were removed for source players, so there's 3, 4, and then 5 through 11. Now, let's talk about a higher frequency source player making a low frequency decision. They haven't really changed anything about their game except for they have removed the animals from their foods consumed, and yet they are. There's a couple of ways you can look at this, all right? They haven't unlocked their script yet, or they have, all right? If they haven't unlocked their script, then their choices, they're still given choices within their script narrative to make beneficial choices or not so beneficial choices. If a source player were to, say, consume alcohol, drinking alcohol is a low frequency choice, all right? It's a red zone activity. Now, if that source player has always been drinking and they haven't removed that, and that is one of the last things that they allow to fall off of themselves through their choices, then a cause and effect. Maybe they have drank and driven their vehicle many times before. And then all of a sudden they make the choice to take this journey and they drink and they get stopped and they get a driving under the influence citation and have a court appearance to make. Now, cause? Well, there's a couple of causes. The cause was they made a low frequency choice of drinking alcohol, consuming alcohol, and then making the choice of getting into a vehicle behind the wheel and driving that vehicle. Another cause. The effect was that they got stopped this time. Now, that's a foolish choice. Doesn't matter who it is. That's a foolish choice to drink alcohol and get behind the wheel of a car. And if that source player thinks that they're exempt from consequences because they're a source player and they've removed the animal stuff and they're thinking that they're raising their frequency, and I don't care if they're a higher level than that. They've reverted back and they started drinking. And the more that they allow their frequency level to dip back down to the red zone, then there's more consequences for them. There's more consequences for them because, you see, they ought to know better. This game isn't what you can get away with, pushing the limits. It's not about pushing the limits of the envelope and seeing what you can get away with. In other words, drinking and driving and have no consequences. That's not what being a source player and having a high frequency and control of your game is about. There's still rules within the game. And one of the rules is if you're doing low frequency behaviors and you have a low frequency, then you will be subject to that rule set that applies for that frequency level. Now, some of you are testing to see how much you can get away with. You are choosing choices that do not benefit you, that are low frequency behaviors, and you're wondering how long you can get away with it, or can you work the system, or can you manipulate and control the matrix to let you get away with whatever it is that you want to get away with? Well, if you are acting in low frequency behaviors, well, you've sabotaged your empowerment by that choice that you have made. That nowadays. And going forward, there are consequences to that choice and that action that you made. Only the highest frequency source players can manipulate the system, the matrix. However, when you reach a high enough frequency that you can, well, you know what's beneficial to tweak and what's not beneficial to tweak. Okay? You won't be having the lower frequency thoughts and choices, and so therefore you are dealing with things out of neutrality. And a high frequency source player is not going to go indulging in alcohol and partying and revelry and all the lower frequency choices that are out there for source players to make. Some have made mistakes. Well, they've not been mistakes because they were their choices, and there's no mistakes in this game. You are experiencing the result of your choices in this game. You're experiencing the result of your choices in this game. There is no escaping cause and effect, and your frequency level determines what the effect or the consequences of your choices will be. Now, if you go and you have unprotected sex, and you think through your, well, a lot of it, there is a lot surrounding that in a lot of different scenarios, and it depends on the individual source player. For one thing, a high-frequency source player isn't going to have that type of a mindset that they can't control themselves and not have sense and presence of mind. Unprotected sex that's being caught up in the heat and passion of the moment. That's a foolish, foolish, foolish source player. Not making beneficial choices. But I don't suppose they'd want to stop in the stream and say, is this a good choice for me to make? Do you? No, because in that action, in the passion, they have totally disconnected themselves from their source self-awareness, and they're just following whatever their avatar and their energy bodies are chasing after. Consequences. What are the consequences, potential consequences of unprotected sex? Well, pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases, misunderstanding with the person that you are in the act with, etheric attachments, entity attachments, all of these things. Now, if you're drinking alcohol, that comes with you have given consent. When you do the act or you make that choice, then you are giving consent. You may not think you're giving consent, but the simple action is giving consent. For etheric attachments, entities attaching to you, and consequences for those choices, low frequency choices. Now, high frequency choices benefit you because instead of pulling you down, it raises you up in your frequency. There is many high frequency choices to make as there are low frequency choices to make. Cause and effect. And you will not get to the higher frequency dimensional planes by making low frequency choices. Now, whatever would make a source player think that they could escape the consequences of their actions, participating in low frequency behaviors. Now, it is possible, like I said, not every time that you have unprotected sex are you going to cause a pregnancy. All right? You really want to play those odds. And driving while you're under the influence, it's as simple as getting a taxi ride home or calling somebody and saying, "Come get me." Seriously. Now, if you have organ issues because you're consuming alcohol, you may have already been told that, but you've chosen not to listen. And you continue the same behavior. Well, cause and effect. And if you're doing these things, then you're not inside your soul cage. You are not connected to your source self. You have at least one or more of your frequency bodies that are down in the red zone, and you have no empowerment. You have no empowerment. You are separating yourself from your path and your upward frequency climb. You're sabotaging yourself by your own choices and actions. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. Now, if you decide that you just want to quit your job, you've got your 1 month cash stash, and you just decide you're fed up with your job and you just quit your job, and you have that money to get you through the month, but then you have no plan when you quit your job, and you sit there for a month and you do nothing. You're not creating a new revenue stream. You quit your job, but you have no plan in place. You're not going out and looking for another job. You are not being creative and trying to create some other type of income for yourself or flow in your life. And you just sit around for a month, then you use up your emergency supplies. Cause and effect. If you have nothing coming in, it doesn't benefit you to have it going out faster than it can come in. That creates debt, that creates stress, that creates a lot of things in your game. Now, I've always said, if you have a plan, you are wanting to create something new. You need to have a plan. You need to know what it is that you want. And the supply needs to be there to see you at least start the journey. Start the journey so that you are not panicking and under stress. It requires preparation. It requires discipline and putting things together. Sitting at home on your hands, doing nothing, not sure just because you were fed up with the job that you had. Now, in some countries, you may be rewarded for that. You can draw unemployment, you can get on food stamps and aid and all kinds of things, and you could actually do that. You could sit and do nothing and have your basic necessities met. But that's not what a source player is about. You are a powerful creator. Is that what you want to create? A state of being taken care of by the state or government of whatever country that you're living in? Is that really what you consider living in abundance and your best life yet? Each source player has their idea of what their best life is. Now, these are just some things to get you thinking. Now, they may apply to you and they may not. But the example is the same. Regardless of whatever activity or whatever it is that you are doing, there's cause and effect. Cause and effect. Sometimes you can guess, well, you know what potential consequences are for the action, and you choose to ignore them, hoping that you may get by and slide around and there will be no consequences. Don't count on it. Especially if you're doing lower frequency behaviors. They are choices. Choices that you make. When you become awake in this game, and you know the truth about the matrix, and in your mind you start the path, but you are double-minded and you don't have the resolve to see this all the way through, or the matrix knows that all it has to do is throw a few things at you and you'll stumble and fall and you'll throw the path away and you'll go back to doing whatever you were doing. You see, you put yourself, when you decide you're going to do the journey, if you have the resolve and the intent in your mind to be successful in this journey, to be able to say no to the flesh, to be able to control your mind and your avatar and your choices in this game for beneficial ones rather than for fleeting enjoyments and experiences. When you know that and you are you just know and you're determined that you're going to continue in this path and you will succeed. You won't reach as many testings as someone who is going to be flippant about this journey and say, well, I'll give it a try, but anytime I want to go off the path, I'll just do it and then I'll hop back on. Well, some of you might get some rude awakenings in the amount of testings that you will receive whenever you have that kind of an attitude in your game. You see, because the matrix knows it can break you. You're not committed. You're wishy-washy. You're easy to sway. You're easy to trip up. And the matrix knows all it has to do is keep throwing these things in front of you that are your weaknesses. And you will succumb and you will fall back asleep and forfeit your game. I did not get where I am by having a weak will. No source player gets to the high frequency levels having a weak will. And being uncommitted to the path and the journey. It takes determination. It takes a strong will. Or, I should say, a strong won't. Because you won't be tempted by those things that the matrix wants to throw in front of you. You see, the matrix knows everything about you, knows all your weaknesses. Some of you will even position yourself in places that you ought not be because of your weaknesses. Your weaknesses are the opposite sex, or alcohol, or your buddies, and you go and drugs, and you go and put yourself, take your avatar and put it where all of the temptations are around you. And you've put yourself in a place where you have peer pressure and you're not strong enough, and you cave and you give in. See, that's a choice. Your choice put you there. And the effect of the peer pressure and those things that you know that you have weakness to, don't go testing yourself to see if you've arrived and you can off the weaknesses. You'll have plenty of chances to be tested. You don't need to go put yourself there. They'll come to you. They'll come to you to test you. Cause and effect. Make the best choices that you know in your now. Make the best choices for yourself. You can do this. You can do this. Mind over matter. Your mind in control of your body and your choices. Your body does not rule you, but you rule your avatar and body. Now, you can do this. You can make beneficial choices for yourself in this game. Now, if you found the information that I share and the work that I've done in this matrix to be beneficial to you and you appreciate it, then you should consider giving a gift via PayPal. The link is in the description box below. Abundance, health, and prosperity to you.